For the last 50 years or so, our entire world has pretty much been built on silicon. But what if the next giant leap in computing wasn't built at all? What if it was grown? We are right on the edge of a revolution, one that takes us past circuits and wires and deep into the world of biology. So here's what we're going to get into. First, we'll look at why silicon is kind of hitting its limits. Then we'll see how computing is, and I mean this literally, coming alive. We'll dive into Later's own tiny processors, check out the incredible revolution this could kick off, and finally ask, what does a living future even look like? All right, so first things first. To really get where we're headed, we got to understand the problem with where we are right now. And the problem is, the whole age of silicon is running up against a hard physical wall. You've probably heard of Moore's Law, right? For decades, it's been the engine of the tech world. This simple idea that our chips get twice as powerful every 2 years. But that incredible sprint, well, it's starting to look more like a jog. And the big question on everyone's mind is the party finally over? And the reason why is both simple and, well, a huge deal. We keep shrinking transistors down to the point where they're literally the size of a few atoms. And at that tiny scale, physics gets weird. The electrons, the little guys that make the whole chip work, they start doing this bizarre thing called quantum tunneling. It's like a ghost walking right through a solid wall. They just leak right through the barriers that are supposed to control them, and that makes the whole chip unreliable. We're just flat out running out of room. And you know what? There's another massive problem: energy. Our data centers, the brains behind the entire internet, they are incredibly power hungry. They just guzzle electricity. But when you look at how biology does computation, it's just insanely efficient. We're talking about a tiny, tiny fraction of the energy. So all this leads us away from the problem and straight to a solution that sounds like it's pulled from a sci-fi movie. A completely new way of thinking, where we use life itself to power our tech. So what is biocomputing, really? Well, when you boil it all down, it's about using the actual building blocks of life. We're talking DNA, proteins, all that good stuff, and using them to do the things our silicon chips do now. Storing information, running calculations, solving really tough problems. And when you put them side by side, the difference is just, whoa. On one side, you have our current computers. They're rigid, they're power hogs, and they're hitting a physical limit. And on the other side, this idea of a living computer. It's made from the same stuff we are, it barely sips energy, and it works on a scale we can hardly even imagine. It's a whole different ballgame. Okay, I know what you're probably thinking. This all sounds a little wild. Like, how on earth can you program a molecule to solve a math problem? So let's actually get into how this works. One of the most amazing ways is through DNA computing. It basically works in 3 steps. First, you take your problem, say a super complex logistics puzzle, and you translate it into the language of DNA. Then, and this is the crazy part, you just mix billions of these DNA strands together in a test tube. They just do their thing. They react and connect with each other, basically trying out every single possible solution all at once. Finally, you just sequence the DNA that's left to find the strand that holds the right answer. And it's not just loose DNA. Another way is to use entire cells. Scientists can actually engineer the machinery inside a cell to act just like the logic gates in your computer. You can program a cell to say, if you sense this chemical, produce this protein. It's like creating tiny biological circuits that can think in ones and zeros. This quote just captures it perfectly. We're shifting from being builders of lifeless machines to being programmers of living systems. The new programming language isn't C++ or Python, it's A, C, T, and G. The actual letters of the genetic code. Now, this isn't just some cool academic experiment. The practical applications here they're just profound. They could truly change everything. This is the why this matters part. I mean, just look at some of these possibilities. Imagine discovering new medicines in days instead of decades, or storing all the data on the entire internet in a little test tube. We could have materials that heal themselves, or get this, microscopic biological doctors swimming in our bodies, hunting down and fixing diseases all on their own. And that data storage idea, to put it in perspective, check out this number. A single gram of DNA, 1 gram, could theoretically hold 215 petabytes of data. That is more than 200,000 1-terabyte hard drives, all in something that weighs less than a paperclip. It's a mind-blowing amount of storage. So what's the secret? How is this possible? It all comes down to one amazing concept: massive parallelism. Instead of having one super fast processor working on a problem, you have trillions of molecules in a single drop of water all working on it at the same time. For certain complex problems, that means they could find a solution way, way faster than any supercomputer we could ever hope to build. But as exciting as this all is, let's pump the brakes a bit. We're not there yet. This future comes with some enormous challenges and, honestly, some pretty deep questions we need to think about. Let's be real about the hurdles. Unlike the clean, predictable world of silicon, biology can be messy. It's noisy, which leads to more errors. And taking these tiny systems and scaling them up to solve big, real-world problems is a huge challenge. And of course, maybe the biggest one of all, when you are literally programming life, making sure it's safe, secure, and under control is absolutely critical. Beyond all the technical stuff, this technology makes us ask some really profound questions. I mean, if you have a cluster of cells that's doing a calculation, is it a machine? Is it alive? Where exactly do you draw the line? We are blurring the definitions of these really fundamental ideas. And that leaves us with one final fascinating question to chew on. For all of human history, we have manufactured our tools. But we might be walking into an age where our most powerful technology is organic, self-assembling, and alive. So will our next computer be something we grow in a lab, not build in a factory? It's a future that's starting to feel less like fiction and more like just plain science.